This is a video discussing an article by Dogvin Fulsdahl. I'll put a link to the Amazon down here, which will take you to a book which is a good guide to phenomenology and existentialism. It's edited by Hubert Dreyfus, and it has a lot of good things in there which will help you out if you're trying to figure all these concepts out. And it will kind of, if you only are going to learn a certain couple of things, you're not going to learn the whole thing if you take a phenomenology and existentialism class. There's different sides to things. There's different things that you probably haven't learned. For me, this kind of brings it all into, not all, but a good amount of it into one place. There's an article in there by Dogvin Fulsdahl discussing the reductions of phenomenology. Now, when we say that we are bracketing the natural attitude or we're giving a epoche, first of all, there's three things. We have the bracket and the epoche and the reductions. There's three reductions, and the words epoche and bracketing are used interchangeably with the word reduction. Epoche is a Greek word which means abstaining from judgment, and that's really what it is, because when you read Husserlian and he talks about the natural attitude, if you want to read about the natural attitude and the bracketing of that attitude, read the ideas. That's kind of where the transcendental turn happened, and you'll read about that stuff in the ideas. But you'll hear it used as bracketing it, or the phenomenological epoche, or reduction. I will be using the word reduction because we're talking about a natural attitude. The natural attitude is pretty much the common thing that you get, whether you're in empiricism or rationalism. You get this kind of thing, this kind of dichotomy, or series of dichotomies which are relatively the same, however a little bit different, throughout the history of philosophy. So, for instance, you have realism and anti-realism, or realism and idealism. Realism, saying that we're talking about, everything that we see here is ontologically real. Or idealism, this is a mental representation. Or anti-realism, this is just a representation, and it does not exist. Idealists will say that there's no way for me to know whether that there is an objective object here. Idealists will say that there's no way to know. Anti-realists, however, will say there's nothing behind this other than my mental representations. Then we have the dichotomy between objectivity and subjectivity. Subjectivity, meaning that it's all subjective, it's all here, it's all in my mind. Objectivity means it's real for everybody in the world. It's real. It's real beyond my own mind. So we have this dichotomy, and we have we have idealists, and it's just gone through all the whole history of philosophy. Plato's forms, realist and objective, and then in the modern and 19th century philosophy, we get idealism of Berkeley and Descartes and Leibniz and Kant and Schopenhauer and Fichte. We have that. And then, in analytic philosophy will get lots of, reasons for realism. And we have things called like speculative realism. It's just phenomenology. When we talk about this natural attitude, we're talking about something that has been around for as long as Plato or even the pre-Socratics came about. The natural attitude brackets this question. The question, common philosophy will say, what's behind? We'll say, is this real? Is this beyond my consciousness? Is it just a mental work? Whoops. Is this just a mental representation, or is it objectively real beyond my consciousness? Commonly in philosophy, that you will have those questions, and the phenomenological bracket. I mean, the reduction is mostly commonly going to say, among all of them, is that we're not going to ask those questions anymore. The Husserlian dictum to the things themselves is essentially, that's what we mean. We're looking at what we see and not questioning anything beyond that. We're not going to be skeptical about its existence for me or for the world or whatever. We're just going to say, if I experience this, we're going to either look at the act, or we're going to look at the essences and such. First, we have the eidetic reduction. Eidos in Greek mean essences. Now, Husserl, in his philosophy, was big on essences. Later he gets, later you get philosophy which says existence before essence, but he was all about essences, or kinds, looking at various objects and finding various things that are similar among them, like different colors, like it's almost like properties or universals, but it's like I see brown in these two objects. I see circular shape in those two objects, or humanity in me and humanity in you, that kind of thing. Essences, kinds, that kind of thing. So in the eidetic reduction, we are bracketing the natural attitude, and we're not going to talk about the physical or mental object anymore. We're either going to ignore or break down that dichotomy, and we're going to just talk about essences now. Brings us to the essences, things. The object of that can be eidos. The object of my act. And what I mean act, I mean the mental, or the not mental, because we're not talking about mental or physical. The intentional act. We encounter lots of ida, or essences, lots of essences. Acts directed towards essences, they're constrained by hyletic data, and like I said, similarity of objects means essences, similarity in different features and such. So that's essentially, we're bracketing going down from the natural attitude to this idea of essences, and we're looking at essences. We're having an intentional act upon this when we're studying essences, rather than the physical or mental object. Second reduction is the transcendental reduction. In the logical investigations, he did not think about things as transcendental. He did, this was before the transcendental turn, but in the ideas he had a transcendental turn, and in there where we get the concepts of noesis, noma, and hyletic data. And the transcendental reduction is reflection on the intentional act. Intentionality is common among all of Husserl's phenomenological writing, but the transcendental reduction is reduction from the natural attitude down to studying the act, the intentional act. And in the act we have noesis, noma, and hyletic data, or hyla, whichever. So, in an intentional act of, let's say, this remote here, we have the noesis, which is the matter of the act, and we have corresponding structure or meaning in the act as well. And then hypothetic data is what we're perceiving during passive synthesis, like all this stuff that constrains as well as fills up all this stuff. Like while I'm looking at this remote, there's all this stuff around here too. There's so much other stuff. So that while I'm focusing on this remote and looking at it, there's so much other stuff around here that constrains my experience of this as well as fills up the world beyond it. Okay, so that is another reduction. The last one would be a combination of the eidetic reduction as well as the transcendental reduction, is the Phenomenological Reduction. Essentially, we are bracketing the natural attitude, where we're not going to look at physical and mental anymore, but we're going to look at, we're going to study noesis, noema, and hyale of the intentional acts directed toward essential traits of acts directed towards essences. So we're studying not only the essences and essential traits and features, but we're studying the acts accompanied with when I have an intentional act towards the remote. Not only are we studying the essences that happen to be on this remote, we're studying first the noesis, noema, and hyale with it, but we are also studying the essences with it too. So we're studying the act and the essences that happen to be a part of the act, or the whatever is in the act, whatever concrete stuff is in the act. When I do where I have a intentional act, we have these noesis, noema, and hyale, or noesis, noemata, and hyale. And then so we're going to study those as well as the essences, or ida as well. So these are the reductions. There isn't just one reduction at all. There are three of them, and these are the three that come about throughout Husserl's writings. The transcendental reduction didn't come about until the transcendental turn, where he had the transcendental ego and such, as well as the transcendental idealism too. So yeah, with that transcendental reduction, we're talking. I forgot to say we're not only talking about the noesis, noema, and hyale of all the acts, but we're talking about the parts of the the functions of the ego as well, like the substrate of habitualities and the principle of self-awareness, as well as passive synthesis and temporal awareness. So yeah, what do you think? Do you think that the phenomenological reduction is the way to go? What do you think about the study of essences? What do you think about Husserl's essentialism? I'm curious as to what people who read this stuff think.